Hey math kids, today we're going to talk about trig ratios, Pythagorean theorem, and right triangles. We're going to look at some story problems specifically. And yeah, so let's see, let's say Doug can walk from point A to point B. He can't walk from point A to point B because there's a toxic waste spill in his way. Instead, he starts walking at an angle of 30, let's not do that. Let's say he walks at an angle of 20 degrees. So we have a situation like this. We're trying to go to point A, point B, but unfortunately there's something in the way that's blocking us, all right? So instead, he goes 20 degrees in this direction, and then he makes a 90-degree turn, and what else does he do? And he walks 10 feet that way. How long would the direct path be if we could go that way? So basically, what is AB? All right, so that's our x. So what we want to do is focus on this angle. We have opposite, and we're interested in the hypotenuse. So if we go TOA, so we can do one of those. And let's see, we have opposite hypotenuse, so that's going to be sine. So sine 20 equals opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, the algebra on this one, we want to flip both sides. And so we get 1 over sine 20 equals x over 10. And then to continue the algebra, we just multiply by 10 on both sides. So we get 10 over sine 20. We come to our calculator. Mine's in degrees, but you always want to hit mode and double check that you're in degrees. So we get 10 divided by sine 20 and 29.2 feet. Alright, so that's how long the hypotenuse is, or how far from point A to point B would have been. Okay. Now we have a teenager whose eyes are 5 feet above ground level. And they're looking into a mirror on the ground. Okay, so we have a 5-foot teenager looking into a mirror. And then they can see the top of a building, I think. Okay, let's see. And the building is 50 feet away from the teenager. So we got 5 feet. All right, and then here's our mirror right there. Let's see, the angle of elevation from the center of the mirror to the top of the building is 60 degrees. Okay, and ultimately we want to know how tall the building is, so the height of the building. Okay, a couple assumptions we're going to make. We're going to assume that the kid is standing straight up and that 5 feet is a right angle. Also, the building was built correctly, so that's a right angle. And then another property, if we have a perfect mirror, we look into it, this is also going to be 60 degrees. It's going to go in and out at the same angle. Okay. And I'm just going to move my h over here instead. Okay, we know this total distance is 50. But we don't know these individual lengths right here. So what we want to do first is we want to find this red one right here. So I'm going to just call this x. And if we focus on this angle, this is opposite and adjacent. So it's going to be TOA, or tangent. So tangent of 60 is equal to 5 over x. If we go through the algebra on that one, we flip both sides of the equation to get our x on top. So we get 1 over tan 60 is equal to x over 5. We multiply both sides by 5. We get 5 over tan 60 equals x. We plug that into a calculator. 5 over tan 60, 2.89. Okay, so the distance right here is 2.89. And since we know this entire distance is 50, if we say 50 minus 2.89, so 50 minus our last answer, we get 47.1. So this distance is 47.1. And now if we just focus on this triangle, then we have the opposite and the adjacent, so that's another tangent. So tangent 60 equals the opposite over the adjacent. And so the algebra is a little bit easier on this one. We just have to multiply by 47.1 on both sides. So we have 47.1 tan 60 equals the height of the building. So we can take our last answer, times that by tangent 60, and the height of the building is 81.6 feet. Oops. Okay, so the height of the building, or the final answer, is 81.6 feet. Okay. Let's see. While traveling across flat land, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we'll try this one too. So we see a mountain directly in front of us. And then you drive closer. Okay, I remember this one. So when we measure the height of a mountain, we're going to do the vertical height. So it's 90 degrees right there. So when we're right here, let's see. Yeah, so it's 4 degrees when we first look up at it. Then we drive 10 miles closer, and now it's 10 degrees. And we want to ultimately know the height. So the distance from here to here is 10. We don't know what this is. Let's call that x maybe, because we'll definitely want to know it. Okay, so what we're going to do, this one's a little bit harder than the last one. The algebra is going to be harder, I think. Okay, so I'm going to look at this big triangle that I've outlined in red. So we know it's 4 degrees. We are interested in the opposite as well as the adjacent, so that's going to be tangent. So tangent 4 is equal to h over 10 plus x. Okay, because the entire side is 10 plus x. All right. Now we're also going to set up this smaller triangle. Okay, and that's also a tangent. Tangent 10 equals opposite over adjacent. So what I'm going to do, we ultimately want h, and so I'm going to solve for x first, and I'm going to solve it in the pink equation because that's easier. So we flip this upside down. Oh, not 10, h. and then we just multiply both sides by h. 1 times h would be h. And so the expression that we get is h over tan 10 equals x, because those canceled. Okay, now conceptually this isn't hard, but in practice it's kind of hard. So I'm going to replace, since this is equal to x, and we have an x right here, I'm going to put an x in right there. So I'm going to say tan 4 equals h over 10 plus h over tan 10. Alright, so that's kind of messy. So we just need to get down to h somehow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply everything by the bottom of this fraction. So 10 plus h tan 10, 10 plus h over tan 10. So what that's going to look like, it's going to be tan 4 times by 10 plus h over tan 10, and that's just equal to h. Now we need to break up these fractions somehow, and so if I multiply, let's see, what's the best way to do this? I want to get rid of this. Maybe it's easier though if I do this first. Okay, I'm going to distribute this first. So I'm going to get 10 tan 4, so I'm multiplying both pieces by tan 4, plus h tan 4 over tan 10 equals h. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I want to clear this fraction, so I'm going to multiply everything by tan 10. So tan 10, tan 10, tan 10. Okay, so this tan 10 and this tan 10 cancel, so that piece is just h tan 4. This is going to be h tan 10, and then this is going to be 10 tan 10 tan 4. Alright, so this is pretty messy, right? We need to get our h's on the same side. So this has an h in it, and this has one, so I'm going to subtract this one. Okay, those cancel. We have 10 tan 10 tan 4, and that's equal to h tan 10 minus h tan 4. Now, at any point, you can turn these into decimals and work with them. I actually prefer it this way, but okay, this has an h in it, this has an h in it, so we're going to factor that out. So we just have tan 10 minus tan 4, and then we have all this the same. And one more step of algebra, divide by the parentheses, so tan 10 minus tan 4, divide by the parentheses, tan 10 minus tan 4, and then that cancels, so we just have h, then we have 10 tan 10 tan 4 divided by tan 10 minus tan 4. Alright, now we're going to plug that into a calculator, see what our answer is. So we're going to say, 10 tan 10 times tan 4, okay, and then all of that is divided by tan 10 minus tan 4. So don't forget to put parentheses around the top and the bottom. Make sure they all line up. I need one in here. Nope, wrong spot. enter, and after all that, our mountain is only 1.16 feet tall. So it's not so much a mountain, but anyway, that algebra was a little bit crazy. Once again, if turning things like tan 4 into a decimal or tan 10 into a decimal is more helpful to you, do it that way, okay? And we just have one more problem. This one will be much easier. Okay, so Robert's house is 5 blocks east and 10 blocks south from school. What is the shortest distance between the house? Okay, so we have the house. And if we say north, east, south, west, we're thinking like that. On our diagram, we go 5 blocks east, 10 blocks south, but then the shortest distance would be this line. And so all we have to do is the Pythagorean theorem, where we would think of this like our C, because this is our hypotenuse, this is a right angle. So we can say 5 squared plus 10 squared equals C squared. So 5 squared is 25, that's 100. We add those together, we get 125. And then we just square root both sides. Go to our calculator, and we go square root of 125 is 11.2 blocks. Okay, if you need additional help, come to Math Lab. Until then, calculator.